Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. And if you've been following the Helldivers 2 situation, it's been a wild roller coaster ride of a weekend. Things were getting out of control there for a while, and truthfully, I feel like the way that people have behaved throughout this entire ordeal has been both selfish and also inexcusable. Now, I'll get into my reasons as to why I feel that way here in a little bit, but I'm very pro-gamer on this stance. What Sony was doing was simply wrong. But thankfully, a large portion of gamers worked together to pressure Sony, and for all the naysayers out there, that noise absolutely made a difference. Gamers won. And we're going to talk all about that today and exactly what happened. We also have a couple of exciting game announcements to talk about as well. But before we get started, do make sure to hit that subscribe button if you like this type of content. It means a lot to me personally, but in return, I always strive to deliver the best game updates that I can every Monday through Friday, whether that be about PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, PC, the Ouya, or whatever. We just like to talk about games on this channel, so do make sure to hit those buttons below. With that said, though, let's just get right into things, and we might as well go ahead and start the week off with a bang because we got a big shadow drop out of nowhere. Supergiant Games just launched Hades 2 into Steam Early Access. Yeah, people are already playing it as we speak, and as you would expect, fans are raving over how good this game is. Now, I've not played it yet myself personally, but if you have, do let me hear your impressions below. What I have been hearing, though, is that it is incredibly polished for an early access title. I mean, no big surprise, the first game was amazing, and you also have to remember that this is how Supergiant Games handled the original Hades as well. It also launched into early access, and clearly, they took full advantage of that situation. So why not go ahead and do it again with Hades 2, iron out the kinks, and once again take advantage of that fan feedback that you get with early access. Now, something that you might want to know here, though, is that they mentioned that they're expecting it to stay in early access through at least the end of 2024. They don't have an exact plan for its final release date just yet, but, truthfully, I don't really think that that's an issue with this game. Supergiant Games has time and time again proven why they're among the best independent studios, or really just one of the best all-around studios, period. So I don't think this is your typical early access title. I think we kind of know what we're going to get from Supergiant Games, and that's a quality experience. In fact, on Steam, it already has 1,000 plus reviews with a 98% approval rate. So if you like their games, or if you like the first Hades, I wouldn't hesitate at all to buy in, especially if you want your feedback heard. It is priced at $30, and I should also add that it is available on the Epic Games Store as well, just in case for whatever reason you prefer that store instead. Now, for as much good news as I want to bring you all today, we do have one topic here that's a little bit more on the unfortunate side of things, and this is in regards to the formerly named Activision studio, Vicarious Visions. This is the studio that worked on the highly successful Crash Insane trilogy, and then also Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2. So they put out some quality remakes, and as a reward, Activision dissolved them from their studio name and more or less forced them to be a Call of Duty support studio. Yeah, that's pretty much Activision for you, and this is a prime example as to why Toys for Bob, which found themselves in a similar situation, wanted the heck out of there. These studios have aspirations to work on other games besides Call of Duty. But anyways, I digress. Over the weekend, we got a leak from Liam Robinson that basically tells us what could have been if Activision would have handled Vicarious Visions differently. Allegedly, they were planning to develop Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4 after the first compilation. I know a lot of people would have been thrilled if that were to happen, but instead, as we know, Activision shifted them over to Call of Duty support. And then I think even more interesting here is that he also claimed that at one point, Vicarious Visions wanted to work with Nintendo on a 3D Donkey Kong game. This is a very interesting and I think an attractive partnership as well. But you can see here posted up by My Nintendo News, they said Nintendo was interested in working with Vicarious Visions, but Activision, who owned Vicarious Visions, wasn't interested in working with Nintendo. The founders of Vicarious Visions were the ones that were pushing the most for a partnership with Nintendo, left the company in April of 2016. At the time, a prototype of the game had been in the works for half a year, and it had a temporary Freedom Code name until an official one was decided on. However, without the Balla brothers being involved anymore, it left Vicarious Visions more vulnerable to Activision's desire to focus on Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy and their own IPs and projects, which were shifting further away from single-player titles. So Donkey Kong Freedom was scrapped by the end of 2016. So, I guess on one side here, we can't completely blame Activision's desire to be a Call of Duty factory on this specific move. This was really at a time when Activision had a little bit more variety in their lineup. And to me, it kind of sounds like Activision just wanted to focus on its own mascot platformer, being Crash Bandicoot. And truthfully, I can't really fault them for that decision. It's better for their own business to focus and build up their own internal franchises. So ultimately, that was probably the right move for them, but I mean, at the same time, it is too bad that Activision couldn't find a way to make both happen, because I think this is a really cool idea that a lot of fans would have absolutely loved. I mean, I guess if there's a silver lining here, though, what this news kind of tells us is that Nintendo is at the very least open to the idea for a new 3D Donkey Kong game. I mean, you have to remember that this is a story from 2016. So it's been 8 years since this alleged 3D Donkey Kong game was scrapped. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe Nintendo went out and found a different studio to work on a game like this. So that's kind of the silver lining with this story. I think for you Nintendo fans out there, there's still kind of a reason to look at this news piece as somewhat of a good sign. I mean, who knows, if they went back and found a studio a while ago, we could get a new 3D Donkey Kong game for that Switch successor. All right, so let's go and get into this Helldivers 2 situation, because this has been a baffling, crazy mess of a story. Here we have Helldivers 2, arguably the most successful game of the year alongside Palworld. If anything else, it's easily Sony's most successful game of the year. It will be their most successful game of the year, and it's also their most successful live service game ever made, just period. So this is the huge multiplayer hit that Sony's been looking for, and all eyes are on them and how they handle this success going forward. Well, as we know, they fumbled the bag hard last week when they announced that Helldivers 2 on PC would soon require PSN linking. And as we talked about last Friday, fans were furious. And let me be clear about this. Those fans had every right to be upset about how Sony handled this situation. While Sony and Arrowhead have known that PSN would be required eventually, they didn't exactly communicate their plans clear enough to paying fans. And even worse here is that they were selling Helldivers 2 in countries where PSN isn't available. So by requiring PSN months after its release, that's basically telling those paying customers who are well past the refund period to either break their terms of service to play the game that they paid for, or don't play it at all. And that is not reasonable on their part. That there is the primary issue with this entire situation. Now, if Sony would have required all of this from day one, this might have played out differently, but they didn't. Now, I'm going to speak a little bit more candidly here, because I thought it was absolutely ridiculous the way some people defended Sony on how they handled this PSN requirement. Over the last few days, I've seen several people come out and twist the context of what people were actually upset about, or they would just willingly ignore all of the core issues. And I'm talking about big accounts here, some of which who claims to supposedly be neutral. Okay, whatever. But they were acting like this wasn't a big deal. They were making all kinds of excuses for Sony, or they tried to deflect by bringing up other publishers who also require a linked account, all while ignoring that those other companies had that requirement from day one. That is a very, very different situation. But they know that. I'm not going to name any names here, but they know who they are. As I said last Friday, even though PSN linking doesn't affect me personally, I have enough awareness to understand not everything is about me. A lot of people were fighting not for themselves, but they were fighting for others who were impacted, and thankfully they did. Consumers used the resources that they had available to them, and they made a statement. They review bombed Helldivers 2, and they bombed it hard. It received 200,000+ negative reviews in a matter of days, and that sent a very clear message to Sony that you better fix this issue. Now, there's still some people complaining about this review bomb, but you know what? This is all consumers can do, so you don't have companies like this take advantage of them. And guess what? It worked. After a long and very noisy weekend, Sony responded with this message to the community. Helldivers fans, we've heard your feedback on the Helldivers 2 account linking update. The May 6th update, which would have required Steam and PlayStation Network account linking for new players and for current players beginning May 30th, will not be moving forward. We're still learning what is best for PC players, and your feedback has been invaluable. Thanks again for your continued support of Helldivers 2, and we'll keep you updated on future plans. So again, thankfully, there was a lot of gamers out there who fought for each other, and they were loud enough to get Sony to listen. Like, this situation was so bad that if this would have went through, there was a discovery that Helldivers 2 would have been delisted from more than 170 countries on Steam where it was previously available at. Now, I don't know if that was Sony's decision or if it was Valve's, because I'm sure that they were probably getting a lot of refund requests. It would not surprise me at all if that was Valve's decision. But I mean, either which way, gamers used their voice. They were very loud about it, and they kept Helldivers 2 alive for a lot of people, where this game would have essentially been dead otherwise. Now, one last thing I want to talk about here, though, is Hypercharge Unboxed. Xbox fans were going crazy over this game, I want to say about a year ago. It's a multiplayer third-person shooter where you play as these action figures. I mean, it looks like it could be a lot of fun, and I love these atmospheric, bigger-than-life environments. It really does bring your imagination out, and well, it will be available soon on Xbox consoles. Of course, it's been in Steam Early Access since 2020, and it has a 91% approval rate. And now, if you want to play it on Xbox, go ahead and set your calendars for May 31st. So, there you go. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. Let me know what you all think about the Helldivers 2 situation, and also, what's your thoughts on Activision's management of Vicarious Visions. Until next time, though, peace out.